around people that are working where you want to work or in your field and have information. That doesn't mean you just walk around broadcasting to everybody, but it does mean that they are out there. And as you start to expand your network and have your communications ready and force yourself to be a little more gregarious, you might bump into that person. And a quick example of that, and then we'll take a break. I was in my last job hiring an executive assistant for me. And so I had a bunch of resumes, and the night before the interviews, I was in Costco, and my first visit ever, getting ready for a holiday party, and so I was a neophyte, and I didn't know, like, here's your jar of olives, okay. So I was getting ready to buy one of those jars, and then literally with a tap on my shoulder, and somebody said, you don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to do what? Who are you? Well, because all the reasons why that giant jar was just going to go to rot. Instead, I should get the only huge jar instead. So I talked to this person. We had a great time. We were joking, and through checkout, the lobby, and there in a suit is this guy. I said, "Aren't you glad that went well last night?" Yes, he was. So what was nice for me was, I had an interview essentially that was perfect because nobody had to be on their best behavior. We just were. It also answered for me. He had just gotten out of the Navy and Navy logistics. So I knew he had the skill set that would organize my life. What I didn't know from the resume is, are you rigid? Are you flexible? How are you going to be with interaction? And he showed me all that. So it was sort of a slam dunk. He had the skill set and he had the personality, and I ended up hiring him. But think about if he'd been a complete jerk, and then he comes in the next morning, I'm like, oh, hi, and we'll go through the interview, but I'm not going to hire him. So, and I have a million stories of how that's happened. My very first job here, not before Shakespeare, I'd been in town one day. The next day I ran into a dancer I knew from the East Coast. He said, what are you doing here? I said, thinking about work. He said, oh, you should go to the opera tomorrow. They're auditioning for character dancers for a show. I went over the next day, auditioned, and I got hired. So bumping into somebody in the street, 4 days in San Francisco, I had a job. And I promise you, because I came from New York, you can walk the streets of New York for weeks and never run into anybody that's doing what you're doing. But it is an asset. Talking about opportunities, it's a small town. The people that if you think about where you live, I know on my block I have computer programmers, I have a bus driver, I have somebody who works for PG&E, teachers. Also, I would say there's 30 houses, 5 or 6 of them are involved in the technology world in some way. Community activists, somebody else in nonprofits. It's amazing if you live in San Francisco, what people are doing around you and those connections they have. So I want you to take advantage of that. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll dig into the communication and networking stuff when we come back. Okay, let's do some specifics around the planning of our activities. So we run over them on page 7. If we look at pages 8, 9, and 10, I'm going to be a little flexible on this. There are many ways to do it. I don't have an investment in particular on how you want to do it. So they've got some ideas in here. I get nervous when I have too many lists or time is broken down into too small segments. So I'll just share with you how I figured out how to do it. I will tell you that planning will help immensely. I'm working with somebody now who is out of work and trying to get things going. And aside from being reactive, or I'm making some phone calls, I'm like, okay, how much time is that going to take today? Like an hour. And what are you doing with the rest of your day? Well, I don't know. And then it falls back to looking for jobs instead of really trying to make a plan.